Hey, what's up, guys? This is Trainer Kyle coming at you live, jamming out from the Ford Ranger, Saturday afternoon. It's been a long time since I've made a video, and I realized that, but I've just been extremely busy and etc. So I'm going to try to make a quick one today while I'm driving. Again, paying 100% attention to what I'm doing right now. I just have the phone propped up, so this is completely safe. I wanted to talk today about a topic that I recently got into a bit of a Twitter war about with a couple of my followers, and I thought it was and her final response was, okay, well, I guess it's obvious that we can't fully express our arguments in a 140 character tweet. So holy crap, there's a cop going a little too fast. All right, we're good. Anyways, so she says, I can't express let me make sure he's not pulling. Okay, I'm good. She says she can't express her argument in 140 characters, and apparently neither could I, so I figure I'll make a video to express my argument. The topic of discussion was eating carbs before bed or eating carbs after a certain time of day, after 5 p.m., 6 p.m., or something like that. I posted an original tweet. The original thing that started the conversation was I posted something like, if you don't think you can eat carbs before bed or late at night, how does your body even know what time it is? I was being, sarcastic. I was being funny. I didn't expect anyone to actually respond, but she did nonetheless, with a typical bro science type argument. Oh, well, your body doesn't need carbohydrates before bed because carbohydrates are used as energy, and anything that's not used, and you don't need energy while you're asleep, and if it's not used for energy, then it will be stored as fat. And this is just, it's not even remotely true. It's entirely false. The entire statement is false in every aspect, or I guess in every part of the argument. One, you don't need, I guess carbohydrates are used for energy. Yes, you could argue that. I mean, that's, basically true. The argument that you don't need energy before bed, carbohydrates are used, energy is used in the body for virtually every process that the body does. Everything, in terms of just staying alive, just normal processes that go on in the body require the use of energy. So to say that your body doesn't do anything, you don't die when you sleep. You're still alive, and your body is still doing things that require energy. So that is false. But the big thing is the argument that anything that is not used for the production of energy in terms of carbohydrates will be stored as fat. That is completely false. The pathway by which dietary carbohydrates are converted into fat, or de novo lipogenesis, almost never happens in human beings. It's very rare for that pathway to actually convert dietary carbohydrates into fats, as long as total energy intake from dietary carbohydrates does not exceed your total energy expenditure for that day. So as long as you are maintaining a caloric deficit, we're talking about in terms of fat loss here. The argument was that you won't be able to lose fat if you eat carbs before bed. So as long as you maintain a caloric deficit, nutrient timing, when you eat carbs, when you eat certain things in certain times of the day, has absolutely no effect on your body composition or your ability to lose or gain fat. So it's just incorrect. Carbohydrates are not stored as fat. They are stored as glycogen in the liver mostly. People say, oh, carbs are stored as fat, but then after a post-workout, they'll say, oh, you need a quick source of carbohydrates after a workout to restore glycogen, thus assuming that carbohydrates are stored as glycogen. But then when you go to bed, all of a sudden they're not stored as glycogen anymore, they're stored as fat. It just doesn't make logical sense at all. And then they'll say things like, oh, well, what about, if you consume what if you're completely full of glycogen stores and you're topped off, as they would call it, then the excess carbohydrates would be stored as fat. And being completely full of glycogen stores is extremely difficult. I mean, you would have to consume, an immense amount of carbohydrates to completely top off all of the liver storage of carbohydrate or glycogen, to completely top off muscle glycogen. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of grams of carbohydrates to completely saturate your body with glycogen stores. So that's not something that I would argue most people do on a consistent basis, because I would argue most people who are dieting, trying to lose fat, are probably somewhere in the ballpark of 200 to 300, 400 grams of carbs per day, maybe way less than 200, if you're a small female or if you're starving yourself. So to think that you are going to completely top off your glycogen storage is not realistic. And, if you just look at it from a common sense perspective, that's saying that if you eat carbs before bed, then you will gain fat. So let's assume that you put someone on a starvation diet, let's say 800 calories a day. But if they eat those 800 calories before bed and they contain carbs, then that person will gain fat because they're eating carbs before bed. Even though they're only eating 800 calories a day, the fact that they're eating carbs before bed will make them gain fat. And this just defies human physiology. You completely ignore thermodynamics and human physiology when you make claims like that. And I've heard people talk about stories where people will say, they're talking to a buddy and the buddy says, man, I really was, gaining too much fat. So what I started doing was cutting out carbs before bed. And when I started cutting out carbs before bed, I started losing fat much more efficiently. And then the person responded with, well, did you notice how much less of a caloric intake you were looking at when you decided to eliminate carbs? And the guy responds with, oh yeah, I did the numbers and I was eating like a couple of hundred less calories per day when I stopped eating carbs before bed. And so the friend responds with, well, do you think it was not eating carbs before bed, or was it the fact that you were eating hundreds of less calories per day? And people will go, no, it's got to be the fact that I wasn't eating carbs before bed. So I guess to answer the question in common sense, will it help your fat loss goals if you stop eating carbs before bed? Yes, but not because eating carbs before bed is bad. The reason it will help you is because by eliminating carbs before bed, you have reduced the amount of calories that you took in that day. If you don't eat 200 grams of carbs before bed, you didn't eat 200 grams of carbs worth of calories that day, which equates to a lot of calories. I don't eat much more than 200 grams of carbs in a day most of the times when I'm dieting. But anyways, I hope that video made sense. I hope that explains my argument much better than I can do in a 140 character tweet. If it didn't make sense, please leave me questions in the comment box below. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Twitter, it's @TrainerKyle. Please request new video topics. I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. See you guys later.